I was eating cold pizza when I saw my wife kiss another man. It wasn't some romantic movie moment. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was sitting at my kitchen table in my work clothes, jeans stiff with diesel fuel, a shirt that smelled like grease and metal shavings, scrolling through my phone because I couldn't sleep. The house was quiet. Paula wasn't home yet. She'd said she was working late. Again. The pizza was from 3 nights ago. Pepperoni. The cheese had congealed into a rubbery sheet, but I was too tired to care. I'd been under a Peterbilt for 9 hours that day, replacing a cracked exhaust manifold in a bay with no heat. My fingers still ached. My lower back felt like someone had taken a sledgehammer to it. I opened the Ring app to check if the porch light was still on. That's when I saw the notification. Motion detected. Front door. 11 minutes ago. I tapped it. The video loaded slow. The Wi-Fi in our house had always been spotty. I watched the spinning circle, waiting. Then the footage appeared. There was Paula, standing under the porch light in her navy business suit, the one she wore for important meetings. The light cast shadows under her eyes, made her cheekbones sharp. She was laughing. And standing next to her, close enough that their shoulders touched, was a man in a grey overcoat. Tall, maybe 6'2", clean-shaven, the kind of guy who looked like he'd never changed his own oil. He said something I couldn't hear. Paula tilted her head back, laughing harder. Her hand came up, touched his arm. Then he leaned in. She kissed him. Not a peck. Not an accident. A real kiss. Her hand slid from his arm to his chest. His hand went to her waist, fingers spreading across the fabric of her suit jacket. 5 seconds. Maybe 6. When they pulled apart, she was smiling. Not the polite smile she gave me, a real one, the kind that reached her eyes. He said something else. She nodded, bit her lower lip. Then she turned, unlocked the door with her key, and went inside. He walked back to a black Audi parked at the curb. New model, spotless, the kind of car that cost more than I made in 6 months. The video ended. I sat there, the half-eaten slice of pizza cooling in my hand, and I didn't move. The refrigerator hummed, a low mechanical drone I'd stopped noticing years ago. The clock on the microwave blinked 11:58. My chest felt tight, like somebody had clamped a vice around my ribs and cranked it down 1 click at a time. Outside, I heard the garage door open. The motor groaned, metal scraping against metal. I'd been meaning to oil the track for weeks. Paula came in through the kitchen, heels clicking sharp on the tile floor, purse over her shoulder. She looked tired, or she was pretending to look tired. I couldn't tell anymore. Her lipstick was smudged at the corner of her mouth. "You're still up," she said. Her voice had that edge to it, the one that said she was annoyed I existed. I set the pizza down on the paper plate, wiped my hands on my jeans, leaving grease stains on the denim. "Long day," I said. She nodded, distracted, already looking past me toward the stairs. "Me too, board meeting prep is killing me." She walked past me. I could smell her perfume, something floral, expensive, not the one I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago. That bottle was still sitting on her dresser, unopened. She stopped at the base of the stairs, turned back. "Dale, did you fix the dishwasher?" "Yeah." "Thanks." She smiled. Small, polite, the kind of smile you give a stranger who holds a door open. Then she went upstairs. I sat there until I heard the bedroom door close. The sound echoed through the house. Then I pulled out my phone and watched the video again, and again. I counted 7 times. By the 7th, my hands weren't shaking anymore. If you've ever felt like a ghost in your own home, hit that like button right now. This story is for you. Let me back up a little. My name is Dale Mercer. I was 56 years old that October, living in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'd been a diesel mechanic for 33 years. Started at a truck stop off I-90 when I was 23, fresh out of a vocational program at the community college. My first boss was a man named Raymond Carter. Ray was 62, had hands like catcher's mitts, and a voice that sounded like he gargled gravel. He taught me everything: how to read a schematic, how to diagnose a failing injector by sound alone, how to torque a bolt so it held without stripping the threads. "Torque it right, or it breaks twice," Ray used to say. He'd lean over my shoulder, watch me work. And if I rushed, he'd smack the back of my head with his clipboard. Not hard, just enough to remind me. I worked under Ray for 11 years. When he retired, I moved up to fleet manager at a logistics company that ran 100 trucks up and down the East Coast. I spent another 15 years there, managing a team of 6 mechanics, keeping the fleet running. Then 5 years ago, I went solo. Bought a garage on East Lake Road. 6 bays, 2 hydraulic lifts, an office the size of a closet, and a bathroom that smelled like industrial cleaner no matter how many times I scrubbed it. The sign out front said, Mercer Diesel Repair. Simple, honest. I didn't need anything fancy. I met Paula when I was 41. She was 38, freshly divorced from a guy who cheated on her with a co-worker. We met at a Lions Club fundraiser at the Civic Center. I was there because my buddy Coop dragged me. Paula was there because her company had sponsored a table. She wore a green dress that looked like it cost more than my truck payment, and she talked fast, confident, like she knew exactly where she was going and didn't need anyone's permission to get there. I liked that. I was tired of women who needed saving. My ex-girlfriend before Paula had been a mess, constantly broke, constantly crying, constantly asking me to fix problems I didn't create. Paula didn't need anything from anybody. She had her own career, her own money, her own life. We talked for 20 minutes at the bar. She asked what I did. I told her. She didn't flinch, didn't look disappointed. She just nodded and said, "That's a real skill. People always need mechanics." I asked her out 2 days later. We went to a steakhouse downtown, the kind with cloth napkins and a wine list I couldn't pronounce. She ordered for both of us. I didn't mind. She knew what she wanted. We got married a year later. Small ceremony at the courthouse. Her parents didn't come. They lived in Florida and didn't approve of her marrying a mechanic. My parents had been dead for years. Mom from cancer, Dad from a heart attack 6 months later. It was just us, a judge, and 2 witnesses we pulled off the street for $20 each. The first few years were good. Paula climbed the ladder at her company, a mid-sized manufacturing firm that made industrial components. Operations manager to director to VP of supply chain. She made $78,000 a year. I made $72,000. We bought a house in Mill Creek, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a 2-car garage, and a backyard with a deck I built myself out of pressure-treated lumber. It took me 4 weekends. Paula said it was nice. That was the last time she complimented something I built. We didn't have kids. Paula didn't want them. She said kids would derail her career, and she'd worked too hard to let that happen. I was fine with it. I wasn't sure I'd be a good father anyway. My own dad had been distant, cold, the kind of man who showed love by not yelling. But somewhere around year 10, things shifted. Paula started working later, coming home at 9, 10, 11 at night. She'd walk in, drop her purse on the counter, pour a glass of wine, and go straight to her laptop. If I asked about her day, she'd give me one-word answers. Fine. Busy. Stressful. If I suggested we go out for dinner, she'd say she was too tired. If I tried to kiss her goodnight, she'd turn her head so I got her cheek instead. If I asked if everything was okay, she'd sigh and say, "You wouldn't understand, Dale, it's work stuff." The small humiliations started piling up. One night, maybe 2 years into this pattern, we were at her company's holiday party. It was at a hotel downtown, the ballroom with chandeliers and a live band. I wore my best button-down and a pair of khakis I'd ironed myself. Paula wore a black cocktail dress and heels that made her 3 inches taller than me. We walked in together, but within 5 minutes she was across the room talking to a group of executives in expensive suits. I stood by the bar, drinking a beer that cost $8, watching her laugh at jokes I couldn't hear. A guy next to me, younger, maybe 30, looked at me and said, "You here with someone?" "My wife," I said, nodding toward Paula. He squinted, looked at her, looked back at me. "The one in the black dress?" "Yeah." "Huh." He sipped his drink. "She's a VP, right?" "Yeah." "Cool." He didn't ask what I did. He just walked away. I finished my beer and told Paula I wasn't feeling well. She barely looked at me. "Okay, I'll catch an Uber home later." I drove home alone, sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, staring at the house, wondering when it had stopped feeling like mine. Another time, Paula's sister Denise came to visit. Denise was loud, opinionated, the kind of person who had to be the smartest in every room. We were sitting on the deck grilling burgers, and Denise looked at me and said, "Dale, what do you even do all day?" "I'm a mechanic," I said. "I was flipping burgers, trying not to burn them." She laughed. "I know that. I mean, what's your plan? You gonna do that forever?" Paula didn't defend me. She just sipped her wine, looking at her phone. "It's a good living," I said. Denise shrugged. "If you say so. I just think, at your age, you'd want something more professional." I flipped the burgers, didn't say another word. When dinner was ready, I ate standing at the grill. Paula and Denise sat at the table talking about some boutique that was opening in Buffalo. But the worst moments were the quiet ones. Like when Paula would walk past me in the hallway and not say anything. Or when I'd come home from a 12-hour shift and she'd be on her laptop at the kitchen table and she wouldn't look up. Or when I'd try to start a conversation and she'd say, "Can we talk about this later?" And later never came. I started sleeping on my side of the bed with a pillow between us. Not because I wanted to, because she did. She never said it out loud, but I could feel it. The way she'd stiffen if my arm brushed hers. The way she'd get up if I shifted too close. I thought it couldn't get worse. I was wrong. And I got up, showered. The water was scalding, but I didn't adjust it. I wanted to feel something other than the hollow ache in my chest. I dressed in my work clothes, jeans, a flannel shirt, my Red Wing boots with the steel toes and the oil stains that wouldn't wash out, and drove to the shop. The sun wasn't up yet. The streets were empty except for a few delivery trucks and a guy walking his dog. The shop smelled like diesel and cold metal when I unlocked the bay door. I flipped the lights. The fluorescents buzzed, flickered, then lit up the space. 3 trucks were waiting. A Freightliner with a blown turbo, a Volvo with a coolant leak, a Kenworth that wouldn't start. I started with the Freightliner. The driver, a guy named Mitch, showed up around 8. He was in his 50s, heavy set with a grey beard and a thermos of coffee that never left his hand. He stood next to me while I worked, watching, asking questions. "You look like hell," Mitch said. "Long night." "Woman trouble?" I didn't answer, just kept working. The turbo was shot. I pulled it, inspected the compressor wheel. The blades were chipped, bent, metal fatigue. It happened when drivers pushed too hard for too long. "How long to fix it?" Mitch asked. 4 hours, maybe 5. He nodded. "I'll grab breakfast, back in a bit." After he left, I sat on a rolling stool and pulled out my phone. I opened the Ring app, watched the video again. Then I opened my banking app. Our joint account was supposed to have around $42,000, savings we'd built up over 15 years, emergency fund, down payment for a new truck if I needed one. Money Paula had said we were saving for retirement. The balance was $18,000. I stared at the screen, refreshed it. Same number. $24,000. Gone. My hands started shaking. I set the phone down on the workbench, stood up, paced the bay. The concrete floor was cold even through my boots. My breath came fast, shallow. I wanted to call Paula, wanted to scream at her, wanted to drive to her office and demand answers. But I didn't. Instead, I sat back down, picked up my phone, logged into the bank's website, pulled up the transaction history. 3 withdrawals, 10,000, 8,000, 6,000, all electronic transfers, all in the last 2 months. The receiving account was labeled Summit Consulting LLC. I'd never heard of it. The memo lines were blank. I screenshotted everything, saved the images to a folder on my phone labeled Evidence. Then I called my accountant. He was sitting behind his desk, reading glasses perched on the end of his nose, squinting at his computer screen. "Dale," he said when I walked in, "you look terrible." "Thanks." He gestured to the chair across from his desk. I sat. The chair squeaked. Jim leaned back, folded his hands over his stomach. "What's going on?" he asked. I pulled out my phone, showed him the screenshots. He took the phone, studied the screen, his frown deepening with each swipe. "When did this happen?" he asked. "Last 2 months." "And you didn't authorize these transfers?" "No." Jim handed the phone back. He took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. "Dale, this is fraud, clear as day. Someone used your credentials to move money out of a joint account without your knowledge or consent. Can you trace it?" "Not me, but I know someone who can." He pulled a business card from his desk drawer, slid it across to me. Dr. Ellen Yi, forensic accountant. She's expensive, but she's the best. If someone's hiding money, she'll find it. I took the card. It was plain white, black text. Ellen Yi, CPA, CFE, Forensic Accounting and Fraud Investigation. Thanks, I said. Dale. Jim leaned forward. You need a lawyer too, not just an accountant. This isn't just about the money. This is about protecting yourself. You got a name. He pulled out another card. Richard Klein, Family Law. I've referred people to him before. He doesn't lose. I took that card too, slipped both into my wallet. Then I stood up to leave. Dale, Jim said again. I turned. Don't confront your wife, not yet. If she knows you're onto her, she'll hide everything. You need time to build a case. I nodded. How much time? 2 weeks, maybe 3, but use it wisely. The missing money, the years of being invisible. I sent him the screenshots while we talked. Mr. Mercer, Richard said when I finished, do not under any circumstances confront your wife. Do not mention the account. Do not let her know you know. Why? Because right now she thinks you're in the dark. That's your only advantage. If she knows you're aware, she'll move assets, destroy evidence, or file a restraining order to keep you away from the house. We need time to lock everything down. How much time? 2 to 3 weeks. I'll need to pull property records, verify account activity, and hire Dr. Yi to trace the money. In the meantime, you act normal. Go to work. Come home. Be the same Dale you've always been. I sat in my truck, the engine ticking as it cooled. A shopping cart somebody had abandoned rolled slowly across the parking lot, pushed by the wind. Okay, I said. One more thing, Richard added. Start documenting everything. Texts, emails, receipts, anything that shows her behavior or spending. Timestamps matter, dates matter, details matter. Got it. And Dale, don't let her see you sweat. I hung up. My hands had stopped shaking. Talk it right or it breaks twice. I said it once under my breath. Then I drove back to the shop and finished the turbo job. One night she came home with shopping bags. Designer labels, Nordstrom, Saks. She set them on the kitchen counter, pulled out a leather purse. What do you think? She asked. It was black, sleek, with gold hardware. It looked expensive. It's nice, I said. Miranda got one too, they were on sale. I didn't ask how much it cost. I just nodded. After she went upstairs, I checked the receipt she'd left in the bag. $1,400. Not on sale. I took a photo of the receipt, added it to the evidence folder. Another night I heard her on the phone in the guest bedroom. The door was cracked. I stood in the hallway, quiet, listening. It's fine, she was saying. Her voice was low, but I could still hear her. He doesn't suspect anything. He's too tired to notice. A pause. I could hear someone talking on the other end, but I couldn't make out the words. The lawyer said it'll be clean, Paula continued. I get the house, he gets the debt. That's how it works when you're the primary earner. I wasn't the primary earner. We made almost the same. But she'd rewritten history in her head. I know, she said. I just need to get through this board meeting, then we can move forward. Another pause. I love you too. The call ended. I heard her moving around. I walked back to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. My chest felt tight. My pulse thudded in my ears. I pulled out my phone. Texted Richard. She's planning something. Heard her on the phone. Lawyer involved. Wants the house. He replied 3 minutes later. Expected. Stay calm. We're building the case. You're almost there. I didn't sleep that night. Just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Paula breathe next to me. Dr. Ellen Yi called me 4 days later. I was in the middle of replacing a fuel injector on a Mac when my phone rang. I wiped my hands on a rag, stepped outside into the cold November air and answered. Mr. Mercer, this is Dr. Yi. Richard Klein asked me to review your financial records. Her voice was crisp, precise, no wasted words. What did you find? I asked. Your wife has been moving money systematically for the past 8 months. It started small, transfers of $1,500, $2,000, then escalated. The receiving account is registered to Summit Consulting LLC, a Delaware-based shell company. Registered agent is a service that processes hundreds of these annually. But I traced the beneficial owner. She paused. I could hear her typing. Gregory Allen Holt, date of birth March 14th, 1978. Current residence Harbor Creek Township. Current employer, she paused again. Prestige Manufacturing Solutions. Chief Operating Officer. My stomach dropped. That's Paula's company. Correct. Mr. Holt is your wife's direct supervisor. He reports to the CEO. Your wife reports to him. I leaned against the brick wall of the shop. The cold seeped through my shirt. A truck rumbled past on East Lake Road, diesel engine rattling. How much total? I asked. $24,600, transferred in 11 separate transactions between March and October. Additionally, there are credit card charges I flagged. Hotels in Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo. High-end restaurants. A jewelry purchase for $3,200 at a boutique in Shadyside. She told me that bracelet was a gift from her sister. It wasn't, Dr. Yi said flatly. The receipt is in Mr. Holt's name. I have a copy. I closed my eyes, pressed my free hand against my forehead. There's more, Dr. Yi continued. Your wife and Mr. Holt attempted to file a quitclaim deed on your property. It would have removed you from the title and added Mr. Holt as co-owner. The filing was rejected by the Erie County Recorder's Office because your notarized signature was required and wasn't provided. But the attempt is documented. She tried to steal my house. Yes. I stood there, breathing into the phone. A car horn honked somewhere down the street. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of the lake, cold water, and dead fish. Can you testify to this? I asked. If necessary, yes, I've prepared a full report. 23 pages. Every transaction documented, every timeline verified. Richard has a copy, so do you, as of 10 minutes ago. Check your email. Thank you. Mr. Mercer, Dr. Yi said, her voice softer now. I've been doing this for 19 years. This is one of the clearest cases of financial infidelity I've seen. You have everything you need to win. Don't let emotion derail that. I won't. She hung up. I stood outside for another 5 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I went back inside, finished the injector job, and called Richard. Richard's office was downtown, 4th floor of a red brick building with green awnings and a Starbucks on the ground level. I met him there the next afternoon. His office smelled like leather and wood polish. The walls were lined with law books nobody probably read anymore, and his desk was mahogany polished to a shine. He was younger than I expected, maybe 45. Dark hair starting to grey at the temples, sharp blue eyes, a suit that looked like it cost more than I made in a week. Mr. Mercer, he said, standing to shake my hand. His grip was firm, confident. Sit. I sat. The chair was leather, soft. My boots left scuff marks on the floor. Richard had a file open on his desk, thick, my name on the tab in black marker. I've reviewed Dr. Yi's report, he began. I've also pulled the quitclaim deed filing, your joint account records and cell phone logs from your carrier. Here's what we know. He flipped the file open, turned it toward me. Inside were printouts, highlighted sections, sticky notes in different colors. Your wife has been having an affair with Gregory Holt for at least 8 months, possibly longer. She's been funneling marital assets into his shell company. She attempted to transfer your house into his name, and based on these text messages, he pulled out a sheet of paper. She's been planning to divorce you and position herself as the wronged party. He pointed to a highlighted section, a text from Paula to someone labeled Miranda. Dale won't fight, he never does. I'll get the house, he'll get the garage and his precious trucks. Greg already has the lawyers lined up. I read it twice. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. When was this sent? I asked. October 2nd, 3 weeks ago. I sat back, stared at the ceiling. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly. What do we do? I asked. Richard leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. We have 2 options. Option 1, we file for divorce, present the evidence in court, and let a judge divide the assets. You'll win. You'll get the house, the accounts, possibly spousal support, but it'll take 6 months, maybe a year, and it'll cost you $30,000 in legal fees. What's option 2? Richard smiled. It wasn't warm. It was the smile of a man who'd just drawn a winning hand. We go nuclear. We serve her publicly in a setting where she can't control the narrative. We present the evidence to witnesses who matter, her colleagues, her boss, her board of directors. We make it impossible for her to spin this as anything other than what it is. You want to serve her at work. Not just at work, during her quarterly board meeting, the one she's been stressing about. I stared at him. That's brutal. It's effective. She's built her reputation on being competent, trustworthy, a leader. If we expose her fraud in front of the people who employ her, who rely on her, she loses everything. Her credibility, her leverage, her ability to fight back. What about Holt? He loses more. He's the COO. Fiduciary responsibility. If he's caught embezzling marital assets and engaging in an affair with a subordinate, the company will fire him to avoid liability. And we'll make sure they know. I thought about it. It felt cruel, vindictive. But then I thought about the video, the kiss, the way Paula had looked at him, the way she'd looked at me, or rather the way she hadn't looked at me in years. When? I asked. Next Thursday, 10 a.m. Her meeting starts at 9:30. We wait until she's mid-presentation, then we walk in. Who's we? You, me, and a process server. We'll need visitor badges, but I can arrange that. I'll pose as legal counsel for a vendor. You'll be my associate. They won't question it. I nodded slowly. What if she refuses to sign? She won't refuse, not in front of 20 witnesses. And if she does, we file criminal charges for fraud and theft. She goes to jail. She knows that. I sat there for a long moment. Outside, a siren wailed. Someone honked. The city kept moving. Let's do it, I said. Richard extended his hand. I shook it. One more thing, he said. Between now and Thursday, act normal. Don't give her any reason to suspect. Can you do that? Yeah? Good. Because if she catches wind of this, she'll disappear, and we'll have to start over. I'd eat standing at the counter, toast usually, or a bowl of cereal I didn't taste, while she scrolled through her phone, frowning at emails. One morning she looked up and said, Dale, can you pick up my dry cleaning today? Sure. It's at that place on State Street. The receipt's on the fridge. I picked it up. 4 blouses, 2 skirts, the navy suit she'd been wearing when she kissed Gregory Holt. I hung them in her closet without saying a word. Another night she came home late. After midnight, I pretended to be asleep. She slipped into bed, her side of the mattress dipping under her weight. She smelled like cologne, not hers, his. I lay there, eyes closed, fists clenched under the blanket. On Wednesday, the night before the meeting, Paula came home at 7, early for her. She was in a good mood. She poured herself a glass of wine, sat on the couch, and actually smiled at me. Big day tomorrow, she said. Yeah? Quarterly board meeting. I'm presenting the new supply chain optimization plan. If it goes well, I'm looking at a promotion. That's great, I said. My voice was flat, but she didn't notice. Greg thinks I have a real shot at SVP, Senior Vice President. That's a 6-figure jump, Dale. We could finally get that lake house you've always talked about. I hadn't talked about a lake house in 10 years, but I nodded. Sounds good. She sipped her wine, looked at me. You okay? You seem off. Just tired, she shrugged. Well, get some rest. I need you functional. She laughed, but it wasn't a kind laugh. I went to bed at 9. She stayed up, rehearsing her presentation in the guest room. I could hear her voice through the wall, confident, polished. The voice of someone who thought they'd already won. I didn't sleep. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting the hours until 10 a.m. Grey starting to show in my beard, lines around my eyes from squinting under hoods and crawling through engine bays, hands scarred from metal and heat. I looked like exactly what I was, a working man. I went downstairs, made coffee, drank it black. Paula came down at 6:30, already dressed in her navy suit, hair pulled back, makeup perfect. She grabbed a yogurt from the fridge, checked her phone. Wish me luck, she said, heading for the garage. Good luck, I said. She didn't look back. I waited 10 minutes. Then I got in my truck and drove to Richard's office. Her grip was firm, professional. Mr. Mercer. Ready? Richard asked. Yeah. We drove separately. Richard and Janet in his Lexus. Me in my truck. The drive downtown took 15 minutes. The streets were busy, commuters heading to work, delivery trucks unloading, a group of protesters on a corner holding signs I didn't read. We parked in a garage 2 blocks from Paula's building. Richard handed me a visitor badge he'd printed. It had a fake company name on it, Cline & Associates Vendor Relations. "Put this on," he said. I clipped it to my shirt. We walked to the building, 10 stories, all glass and steel. The lobby was marble polished to a mirror shine. A security guard sat behind a desk, bored, watching a monitor. Richard walked up to the desk. "We're here for the board meeting. Prestige Manufacturing." The guard checked his computer. "Names?" "Richard Cline and Dale Mercer. We're with Cline & Associates Vendor Presentation." The guard squinted at the screen, then nodded. He printed 2 visitor badges, handed them over. "10th floor. Elevators on the right." We took the elevator. It was silent except for the hum of the motor and the faint classical music playing through hidden speakers. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought Richard could hear it. At the 10th floor, the doors opened. The hallway was wide, carpeted, lined with glass-walled offices. At the end was a set of double doors. Through the glass, I could see people sitting around a massive conference table. Paula was standing at the head, pointing to a screen behind her. She was mid-sentence. Richard turned to me. "Last chance to back out." "I'm not backing out." He nodded. Then he opened the door. Paula stopped mid-word. Her eyes locked on me. For half a second, she looked confused. Then she looked scared, then angry. "Dale?" she said. Her voice was sharp, controlled. "What are you doing here?" Richard stepped forward. "Mrs. Mercer, my name is Richard Cline. I represent your husband in a matter of marital dissolution and fraud." Murmurs rippled through the room. 20 people sat around the table. Executives in suits, board members. A woman with grey hair and a sharp expression sat at the far end, watching with narrowed eyes. Janet stepped forward, placed a manila envelope on the table in front of Paula. "You've been served." Paula stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Her hands were shaking. She looked at Richard, then at me, then back at Richard. This is completely inappropriate," she stammered. "I'm in the middle of a presentation. You can't just—" "We can and we have," Richard said calmly. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a stack of documents, and set them on the table, one by one. Exhibit A, bank records showing $24,600 transferred from a joint marital account to Summit Consulting LLC, a shell company owned by Gregory Holt. Paula's face went white. Exhibit B, Ring doorbell footage showing Mrs. Mercer and Mr. Holt engaged in a romantic encounter outside the marital residence. Someone gasped. A man near the middle of the table leaned forward, squinting at the document. Exhibit C, a rejected quitclaim deed filing showing an attempted fraudulent transfer of marital property. Richard slid the documents across the table. They landed in front of the woman with grey hair. She picked them up, scanned them, her expression hardening with each page. Exhibit D, text messages between Mrs. Mercer and her sister, Miranda Hoff, discussing plans to divorce Mr. Mercer and get the house through legal manipulation. The woman with grey hair looked up. "Is this true, Paula?" Paula opened her mouth. No sound came out. Her hands were gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles were white. "Where is Gregory Holt?" the woman asked. A man near the window stood up, tall, clean-shaven. Grey overcoat draped over his chair. The man from the video. "I'm here," he said. His voice was steady, but his face was pale. The woman with grey hair, I realized she must be the CEO, pointed at him. "Sit down." He sat. She turned back to Paula. "Answer the question. Is any of this true?" Paula's mouth opened and closed. She looked like a fish gasping for air. It's not what it looks like," she finally said. Her voice was thin, desperate. "He's manipulating the facts. He's twisting everything to make me look—" "Mrs. Mercer," Richard interrupted. His voice was calm, but hard as iron. "We have documentation, forensic accounting reports, video evidence, text messages, bank records. Witness statements. This isn't manipulation, this is fact. The CEO stood. She was in her 60s, tall, commanding. She looked at Paula, then at Gregory, then at the rest of the board. "This meeting is adjourned," she said. Her voice was ice. "Paula, Gregory, my office now." Paula's legs buckled. She grabbed the table to steady herself. Gregory stood frozen, staring at the floor. The CEO looked at Richard. "Mr. Klein, I assume you'll be filing a formal complaint with our legal department." "If necessary," Richard said, "but we're willing to resolve this matter privately, provided your employees cooperate." The CEO nodded once. "They will." Security arrived, 2 guards in black uniforms. They didn't touch Paula or Gregory, but they stood close, waiting. Paula looked at me. Her eyes were red, mascara starting to run. "Dale, please, we can talk about this. We can—" "No," I said. It was the first word I'd spoken since we walked in. My voice was steady, calm. "We're done talking." She stared at me. Then she turned and walked toward the CEO's office, her heels clicking on the tile. Gregory followed. The door closed behind them. The room was silent, except for the hum of the air vents. Richard turned to me. "Let's go." We walked out. Down the hallway, into the elevator, through the lobby, out onto the street. I didn't say anything until we were standing next to my truck. That was... I couldn't finish the sentence. "Effective," Richard said. "And legal. What happens now?" "She'll call you or her lawyer will. They'll want to settle fast because if this goes to court, it gets worse for her." I nodded. My hands were shaking again, but not from fear, from relief. "Thank you," I said. Richard shook my hand. "You did the hard part. You stayed calm. You documented everything. You trusted the process." He smiled. "Talk it right or it breaks twice, right?" I stared at him. "How did you—" "You mentioned it in our first meeting. It's good advice." He clapped me on the shoulder. "Go home, Dale. Get some rest. This is over." I got in my truck and drove back to the shop. Sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes, staring at nothing. Then I went inside and got back to work. Paula called that night. I was sitting on the back deck, drinking a beer, watching the sun set over the neighbor's fence. The sky was orange and purple, streaked with clouds. The air smelled like wood smoke from someone's fireplace down the street. My phone buzzed. Her name lit up the screen. I let it ring. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, I answered. "Dale." Her voice was raw, like she'd been crying for hours. Maybe she had. "Yeah. We need to talk." "No, we don't." "Please." The word cracked. Just listen." 5 minutes. "That's all I'm asking." I took a sip of beer. The bottle was cold against my palm. "You've got 3. She exhaled, shaky. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything right now, but I am. I never meant for it to go this far. Greg and I, it just happened. We were working late and he understood the pressure I was under, and you were always so distant." "Don't do that," I said. My voice was flat, emotionless. "Don't make this about me." "I'm not. I'm trying to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You stole from me. You lied to me. You tried to take my house. That's not an affair, Paula. That's theft." Silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end, uneven, catching. "The company fired me," she said finally. "And Greg. Both of us. Effective immediately. They said it was a liability issue, conflict of interest. They're doing an internal audit to see if there were any other improprieties." "Good. Dale, what do you want, Paula? You want me to feel sorry for you? You want me to tell you it's okay? It's not okay. You spent 15 years making me feel like I didn't matter, like I was just some guy who fixed your car and paid the mortgage, and the whole time you were planning to throw me away." "That's not true." "It is true. I read the texts. Dale won't fight, he never does. Remember that one?" She didn't answer. "You were wrong," I said. "I did fight. I just didn't do it the way you expected." Another long silence. Then she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "What do you want from me?" I want you to sign the settlement Richard sent you. I want every dollar you took returned. I want the house in my name only. And I want you gone. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem. I heard her sob. A real sob, the kind that shakes your whole body. Part of me wanted to feel bad for her. Part of me wanted to hang up and pretend this conversation never happened. But I stayed on the line. I'll sign, she said finally. I'll sign everything, just please don't press charges. I can't go to jail, Dale. I can't. That depends on you. Sign the papers. Return the money. Stay out of my life. Do that and I won't call the district attorney. Okay. Her voice was small now. Broken. Okay. Goodbye, Paula. I hung up. Set the phone face down on the armrest of the deck chair. Took another sip of beer. The sun had dipped below the horizon. The sky was dark blue now, fading to black. I sat there until the beer was gone and the temperature dropped enough that I could see my breath. Then I went inside, locked the doors and went to bed. He looked like a man who'd lost before he even started. Paula was already there when we arrived. She was sitting in a chair by the window, staring at nothing. No makeup, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She looked 10 years older than she had 2 days ago. Gregory Holt was not there. According to Todd, his lawyer had advised him to stay away to avoid further complications. We sat down. Richard placed a folder on the table. Inside was the settlement agreement. 10 pages, single-spaced. Let's make this simple, Richard said. Mrs. Mercer returns all marital funds, $24,600, via certified check. She signs a quitclaim deed restoring sole ownership of the house to Mr. Mercer. She relinquishes all claims to his business, his retirement accounts, his vehicles, and his personal property. In exchange, Mr. Mercer will not press criminal charges for fraud or theft. Todd looked at Paula. She nodded, her eyes empty. She agrees, Todd said. Additionally, Richard continued, Mrs. Mercer will cover all legal fees incurred by Mr. Mercer in this matter. That's $32,000. Todd's eyes widened. That's excessive. That's the cost of defending against fraud, Richard replied. If she prefers, we can let a judge decide. But I should mention that criminal restitution often includes punitive damages. She'd be looking at double that amount. Minimum. Todd looked at Paula again. She closed her eyes, nodded. She agrees, Todd said quietly. Richard slid the papers across the table. Sign here, here, and here. Paula picked up the pen. Her hand shook. She signed. 3 times. Her signature was barely legible, a scrawl that looked nothing like the confident loops I'd seen on birthday cards and tax returns. Todd produced a cashier's check. $24,600. Made out to Dale Mercer. He slid it across the table. I picked it up, folded it once, put it in my shirt pocket. And the quitclaim? Richard prompted. Todd handed over another document. Paula had already signed it. Richard pulled out a notary stamp. He was certified, and notarized it on the spot. It was legal now. The house was mine. We're done here, Richard said. He stood. I stood. We walked toward the door. Dale. Paula's voice stopped me. I turned. She was still sitting, looking at me with red, swollen eyes. I really am sorry. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I said, I know. I walked out. Paula didn't contest anything. Todd filed the paperwork. I signed where Richard told me to sign, and that was it. 15 years. Over. I kept the house, kept the shop, kept my truck, my tools, my retirement accounts, my dignity. Paula moved in with her sister Miranda in a 2-bedroom apartment in Harbor Creek. I heard from Coop, who heard from someone at the Lions Club, that she'd gotten a job at a Target, part-time, stocking shelves. I didn't ask for details. I didn't care. Gregory Holt left Erie entirely. Someone told me he'd moved to Cleveland trying to find work, but his reputation had followed him. The last I heard, he was working as a consultant for a small logistics company, making half what he used to. The week after the divorce was final, I changed the locks on the house, all of them. Front door, back door, garage. I hired a locksmith, same guy who'd done work for me at the shop. He finished in an hour. I gave him a $50 tip. You moving in or moving out? He asked, as he packed up his tools. Neither, I said. Just taking my house back. He grinned. Good for you, man. A Peterbilt with an electrical short that took me 3 days to trace. The work was steady, methodical, satisfying. A system either worked or it didn't. There was no ambiguity, but something unexpected started happening about 2 months after the divorce. A man named Carl came into the shop one afternoon. He was maybe 45, wearing a construction company uniform, holding a folder. He said his wife had drained their savings account and filed for divorce while he was on a job site in Pittsburgh. He'd heard about my case from someone at the diner on West 26th Street. I don't know what to do, Carl said. His voice was shaking. I feel like I'm going crazy. She's telling everyone I'm the problem, that I'm controlling, that I'm unstable. But I have proof she's lying. Bank statements, texts. I don't know how to use it. I sat with him for an hour, told him about Richard, about Dr. Yi, about the importance of documentation. I walked him through the steps. Stay calm. Don't confront. Build the case. Let the truth speak for itself. He teared up twice. When he left, he shook my hand so hard it hurt. Thank you, he said. I thought I was alone in this. You're not, I said. You're just going through hell. But you'll get through it. Carl hired Richard. 4 months later, he called me. His wife had settled. He got the house, the accounts, and custody of their 2 kids. He sounded like a different person on the phone. Lighter, free. After Carl, more people came. A woman named Linda, whose husband had forged her signature on a home equity loan. A guy named Robert, whose wife had been funneling money to her brother's failing business. A woman named Denise, whose husband had changed the beneficiary on his life insurance without telling her. They all came to the shop, sat in my cramped office that smelled like coffee and diesel, and told me their stories. I didn't charge anybody, didn't want their money. I just told them what I'd learned, how to fight smart instead of fighting loud, how to document everything, how to stay calm when everything inside you wanted to explode. Some of them won their cases, some of them settled. A few decided not to fight at all, and that was okay too. The point wasn't revenge, it was dignity. Richard started calling me his secret weapon. He'd introduce me to clients who were falling apart, and I'd sit with them and show them it was possible, that they weren't crazy, that they could win. One night, after meeting with a guy named Marco, whose ex-wife had faked a deed transfer, I sat in my truck in the parking lot and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I'd spent 15 years feeling invisible, feeling like I didn't matter. And Paula had confirmed every insecurity I'd ever had, but in fighting back, in documenting, in staying calm, in trusting the process, I'd proven something to myself. I mattered. Not because someone else said so, but because I said so. Torque it right or it breaks twice. I'd lived by that rule my whole life. And it had saved me. She was 3 registers over, paying for something small. A paintbrush maybe, or a pack of screws. She looked different. Thinner. Her hair was shorter, grayer. She was wearing jeans and a sweatshirt with a Target logo on it. Our eyes met for half a second. She looked away first. I didn't feel anything. No anger. No satisfaction. No sadness. She was just someone I used to know. I paid for my lumber, loaded it into my truck, and drove home. That afternoon I built the workbench. It took me 4 hours. When I finished, I stood back and looked at it, solid, level, built to last. I ran my hand along the surface. Smooth. No splinters. I'd torqued every bolt perfectly. The market had gone up. I used the money to buy a small place near the lake, a 2-bedroom bungalow with a detached garage and a front porch just big enough for 2 chairs. It was perfect. I kept working, kept helping people when Richard or Jim sent them my way. I started teaching a night class at the community college, Introduction to Diesel Mechanics. The pay was terrible, $1,200 a semester, but the students made it worth it. One kid, a guy named Tyler, came up after class one night and said, "You explain this stuff better than anyone I've ever heard." "That's because I'm not trying to sound smart," I said. "I'm trying to make sure you don't screw up." He laughed. He passed the class with an A-. Last I heard, he got a job at a trucking company in Columbus. I dated a little. Nothing serious. A woman named Karen who worked at the library. A woman named Beth who owned a flower shop downtown. Both were kind, both were easy to be around, but neither felt right. And that was okay. I wasn't looking to fill a hole. I was just living. But I still work, still fix engines, still find satisfaction in making something broken run smooth again. People still come to me. Last month, a woman named Rachel called. Her husband had opened credit cards in her name and racked up $40,000 in debt. She was terrified, crying, convinced her life was over. I sat with her for 2 hours, told her what to do, connected her with Richard. She's fighting now, and she's going to win. Someone asked me last week if I regretted the 15 years I spent with Paula. I thought about it for a long time. Then I said no. Not because the years were good, they weren't. But because those years taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. They taught me that patience isn't weakness, that silence can be power, that the truth, when you let it speak for itself, is louder than any argument. They taught me that you don't need to be loud to be strong. You don't need to scream to be heard. You just need to be calm, to document, to trust the process. Torque it right or it breaks twice. I've said it 10,000 times. I've taught it to 100 students. I've whispered it to myself in the dark when everything felt impossible, and I believe it more now than I ever did. It's a cool October evening, the kind where you can smell winter coming. The lake is half a mile away, but I can hear the waves if I listen hard enough. A dog barks down the street. A car door slams. Life keeps moving. I'm drinking coffee, decaf because my doctor says I need to cut back on caffeine, and I'm watching the sun set. The sky is orange and pink and purple, fading to that deep blue that comes right before dark. I took my dignity back. I took my time, I took the truth. And in the end, that was enough. I didn't feel victorious, I felt alive, I wasn't starting over, I was taking myself back. Tell me in the comments, would you have stayed silent like I did, or would you have confronted her the moment you found out? I chose patience, and that patience saved me. We tell the hard truths here. Stories about quiet strength and second chances, about people who fight back not with noise but with proof, with patience, with the kind of cold, calculated justice that leaves no room for doubt. Because revenge isn't loud when it's done right. It's final. Thank you for listening.